Miles, we are going to get to my guest this week, Mark Murphy. One of the things that I think is interesting, and you listen to Mark Murphy, is if you go to Green Bay, for those people who have an opportunity to go to Green Bay, and a lot of people who listen to this either can't, won't, may never be in Green Bay in their lives, just understand that this area has really undergone a transformation. And it is a little bit now a tech hub, as crazy as that sounds. Microsoft has invested a lot of money in a business in Green Bay. The area right around the field is so incredibly different than it was when I started covering football. So Green Bay is a fascinating place, and it's a great example of what happens to a place when you have an NFL franchise. Anyway, here's my conversation with Mark Murphy. Back on the Peter King podcast, so happy to be joined by Packers president Mark Murphy as we sit here with Lambeau Field in the background. And Mark, I just have to tell you from a very selfish standpoint, the best hotel in the National Football League right now that I stay at is Lodge Kohler. And you
Kohler family would be very glad to hear that.
And I'm telling you, it is. And
it's phenomenal. Yeah.
Everything that has been done in this Titletown district is just absolutely phenomenal. For those people who have not been here and who are not watching, you're only listening, you've got to come and see this at some point. You've got to come and see what has happened. It used to be that Lambeau Field was just this island in this town of 100,000 people in northeast Wisconsin. But now it is really a destination place. So we are in the Titletown district, and we're going to talk to the Packers president about the Packers and about a venture that I'm fascinated with, which is the 2025 draft being held in Green Bay. But Mark, let's start off by just asking about the massive changes with the football team this year, and basically in the last couple of years. Had a conversation earlier with Brian Gutekunst, the general manager, and said, there aren't a lot of teams in the NFL that are run primarily kind of as a continuum. You obviously you want to win, but there are a lot of franchises that would say, hey, wait a minute, we got Aaron Rodgers, we're going to ride till he dies and all that. But the way this franchise has worked, going back years, and it happened in 2008 when Brett Favre wanted to come back, and you guys said, wait a second, we got to start anew with Aaron Rodgers.
We've made a commitment to Aaron.
Yeah, and you've done it now, draft and develop Jordan Love, and it's time to play. Tell me about this from the standpoint of what the Packers organizational philosophy is about developing players and then playing them.
Yeah, well, first of all, we are very fortunate as an organization to have gone from one Hall of Fame quarterback to another. We realize that's not the norm. But, and Aaron, obviously, phenomenal, four-time MVP, Super Bowl MVP. But, I think there's an old saying in the NFL, and you're probably aware of it, and it's even more important now given the importance of the quarterback position in our league. But the old saying was the best time to draft a quarterback is when you don't need one. And you really, if you look, that's kind of the philosophy that, you're planning to play well now and compete, but you always have an eye on the future. And Brian got a lot of criticism when we drafted Jordan Love.
Your general manager, Brian Gutekunst.
Yes, but I say to fans, where would we be now if we hadn't done that? And we still haven't seen a lot of Jordan, but I think we're all excited about the future. And you mentioned it's this is a very different team, a lot of transition. We're very young, particularly on offense, and but with that comes uncertainty, but also excitement. Here we are, second week of training camp, but I think our fans are more excited about this season than any season we've had recently, just because there's so much unknown, and we're young, but we've got really talented young players. And really excited to see, particularly as with Jordan, see how and this. The other thing in the league is, and you've seen this, when you play a quarterback too soon, loses confidence. I think with both Aaron and now Jordan to be able to sit behind a Hall of Fame quarterback and watch him and learn from him, Jordan is in a much different position than he would have been had we thrown him in as a starter 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And that was COVID year. So that was really tough on rookies then.
Mark, I heard the other night at the family night,
Yeah.
Where 70,000 fans go, or 60 or 70 go every year to simply watch a practice, and I heard there was a tremendous outpouring for Jordan Love.
It was palpable, and it was following the practice. We interviewed a couple different players, and Jordan was one of the players that we interviewed, and. I would say it was a standing ovation. I mean, the people were just, they like Jordan and they want him to have success.
It's interesting that would happen with a guy who they don't even know.
Yeah.
What is it about Jordan Love that Green
our
Bay
fans
likes?
Our fans, they know a lot. I think they like, he's humble. He's very appreciative of his teammates. And, the times that he's played, I think particularly this 2 years ago, he started and had an up and down game. But this past year, when Aaron was hurt when we played the Eagles, Jordan stepped in, and it was impressive. So yeah. I think, although we haven't seen a lot, I think there's a lot of optimism there that he can do well.
So, Mark, let's discuss the Green Bay Packers' successful bid to land the NFL draft in Green Bay in 2025. And I know that a lot of people, when this happened in the spring, they said, how in the world can you have a draft in Green Bay? When the draft has been in places like Nashville, there's 600,000 people. What'll happen when 600,000 people go to Green Bay? Well, I don't know that.
We're estimating we'll get 250,000.
Yeah,
that's still quite a bit.
But I've heard at the time when I read about it that it's being thought of as just kind of a grandiose football weekend.
Yeah.
But I say, well, wait a second. On a football weekend, you've got 65 or 70,000 fans coming in.
Yeah.
And this, whatever it is, it's going to be 3 or 4 times that. I want you to tell me how Green Bay got the 25 draft.
Well, we were persistent. I think we started 2017, and I think it was about the 2019 draft, and we were persistent, kept talking about, obviously the history and tradition and the iconic nature of Lambeau Field. Quite honestly, where we are now, I think the Titletown development was very helpful. When we started talking about it, it was just an idea. Now I think we just celebrated our 5th anniversary here, and you can really see what it adds to the ability to host a draft. And then, also there's here the Brown County just built a brand new Resch Center, it's the Resch Expo. That will be crucial to hosting the draft as well. And
how many seats in there?
I think for hockey and basketball, 8,000 to 9,000. So they might have and this haven't made a decision yet where the stage would be. That's up to the league. And
but it's going to be in Lambeau, right?
Well, that's the assumption.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the centerpiece.
Right.
But you've seen the stage is getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
So hopefully they can squeeze it in a 100-yard football field.
So, Mark, how do you fit that many people in the smallest market in the NFL? Where will they sleep?
Well,
Where
that's
do they
the
stay?
hotels.
How will that work?
Hotels are the challenge. I think we have 8,000 hotels in the metropolitan Green Bay area.
You mean 8,000 hotel rooms?
Hotel rooms. Yeah, we don't have. No, we don't have that many hotels. We're going to start building a lot. So we have 8,000 rooms. Obviously, people are going to have to stay Appleton, Oshkosh, Madison, Milwaukee. So it'll be a little different in that regard.
About hour 50 away?
Just under 2 hours.
Yeah.
We've also
Madison,
had little
hour and a half?
little over 2 hours.
2 hours, yeah.
And Yeah, we've also had some discussion. Obviously, Airbnb becoming more and more popular.
Yeah.
You'll see that, and we've also had some discussions with cruise lines about bringing cruise ships into Green
On the
Bay.
Fox River?
Fox River, probably more Green Bay downtown. We think the ice will have been melted by then.
In August or in April.
I got to tell you a story, Peter.
Yeah.
You probably know Peter O'Reilly from
Yeah.
the league office. So I said, Peter, it's late April. We could have snow. And he said, that would be great. So imagine,
Yeah. First round draft choice, John Smith walking up to the snow, walking up
down.
to the stage with the snow coming down. Yeah.
No, it's kind of like, well, you know this, the league and television networks love when a game is played and snow coming down.
Yeah,
It's just it makes the game memorable.
Yeah. But so explain if fans usually descend on the draft
Yeah.
area. So let's say you're a fan and you want to come to the draft. You
Yeah.
love the Packers. You always loved them. What will you do? Will you book a hotel in Milwaukee, commute back and forth? How exactly will that
I
work?
think that's it. I mean, and then obviously the hotels here will be at a premium. I think those would be the first try. But and Airbnbs across the state. I know people are excited about the opportunity to have that. Yeah, probably Milwaukee. I mean, Milwaukee, obviously, they've hosted national conventions and have quite a few hotel rooms there. But the other thing we've talked about is working with Amtrak to get train service from Milwaukee up to Green Bay.
Wow.
For around the draft.
Are there
There are
suitable
tracks.
to
There
do
are
that?
tracks. You probably don't know this, Peter, but the
I don't know.
National Railroad Museum is right here in Green Bay.
That's crazy.
Yep,
Wow.
but we don't have train service in Green Bay, so that's something we're
That
working on.
seems like they're not mutually beneficial. Wow, that's interesting. So, other than the money,
Yeah,
obviously, that will flow into this area,
yeah.
why'd you want the draft in Green Bay?
And it's more than the money. It's the long-term effect and how this will impact Green Bay and really the state of Wisconsin. It's going to be like a 2-week infomercial, a commercial for Wisconsin and Green Bay, especially with Titletown and Titletown Tech now. We're trying to draw as many people and businesses here to Green Bay and the quality of life here and everything that we have going for us. But so, the money, the economic impact, we think, across the state will be about $94 million, which is probably more than 6 times the impact of a normal Packers home game. So it'll be pretty significant. And we've had, we put together a committee to help, planning and getting ready to put on the draft. And and a lot of local companies are investing and helping us because they know that obviously this is going to be great for the state, not just the week that everything occurs here, but long term. I think people thinking about, maybe Green Bay's not such a bad place to live.
Why do you think the league said yes?
I think they got sick of us applying. No, I think it's going to be different. Obviously, you mentioned Chicago and Nashville and huge cities, the kind of the thought on the draft is really focus on cities that will never be able to host a Super Bowl, and obviously we're never going to host a Super Bowl. So I think as you go through the cities, you can see that's a potential. But I think, in my mind, it's the history and tradition of Lambeau Field, the uniqueness of the Packers, our ownership structure, and the fact that, a team in a small town like Green Bay can compete with teams from New York and L.A. It's a great story, and I think it's a very positive reflection on the league as a whole.
Do you see more league events like the draft going to, for instance, next year it's Detroit, year after that Green Bay? Do you think eventually every city in the NFL gets a draft?
Long term, yeah. I mean, other than, again, kind of factoring in if you get the, if you get the Super Bowl,
Right.
maybe you're down the list on. But yeah, I give Peter O'Reilly from the league office, who we mentioned before, has done a great job. I think he uses the term primetime events or tentpole events, and you think about it, it wasn't that long ago. The draft was really not a big deal, and what it's
Everybody
become
thought the league was nuts back in 2014
when they moved
to move it around.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Radio City, capital of the world,
Yeah.
red carpet.
Yeah.
Great. Everybody wants to come to New York. And within like 2 or 3 years, I just thought they were right.
Now you see why. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that night in Philadelphia where the wide angle on the TV, you couldn't see any space. It was all people.
Yeah.
The time in Nashville where there's 600,000 people. It's for whatever you might say about the NFL, whether you like it, whether you don't like it, it truly is a national phenomenon.
No, I agree with you. And Peter O'Reilly's working on the next draft. What'll be? Well, they've got Welcome Back. Is it Back Again Saturday or the
Back Again Weekend or something? Yeah.
But it seems to be insatiable.
Yeah.
You look at the Netflix shows, and people not only watch the games, but they want to know what goes on behind the scenes. And I think those of us that work in the NFL realize how fortunate we are.
Yeah. I'll end with this. You mentioned earlier, and we're sitting right here in this building, Titletown Tech, which until I got here this summer, I never heard of Titletown Tech, had no idea what it is. What is it, and what role does it play in the future of the Green Bay Packers?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's Titletown Tech. It's our partnership with Microsoft, so established by the Packers and Microsoft, and it's a venture. It'll invest in startup companies, a venture capital firm or fund. We've had two raises of funds. The most recent one, we raised $70 million, and we're investing in startup companies. And so far we've had a pretty good, some really good results. Companies that are, and the other hope is that they would all be in Wisconsin or Green Bay, establish and grow. And I give a lot of credit to Microsoft. Just the credibility that they bring is phenomenal. And Brad Smith, their CEO, just happens to be from Appleton, Wisconsin, which is about 20 minutes from here, and he's a big Packer fan. But they have, I think they call it, they wanted to kind of really focus on technology away from the West Coast and the East Coast, and kind of Green Bay was, they thought, a really good place to kind of focus on the Midwest, where there's some great technology and innovations going on, and Titletown Tech is a big part of that.
What role does it play in, hopefully for you, financing part of your future?
Hopefully a large role. And you know this, Peter. I mean, the league is in a great position now. We have long-term collective bargaining agreement. We have long-term TV deals. But that might not always be the case. And if we get in a situation where you don't share revenue equally, a team in Green Bay would be at a disadvantage. So investing in these startup companies and working with Microsoft and Titletown Tech puts us in a position where long-term, if things do change, we're still able to compete. And part of what makes Green Bay special is it's a 10-minute commute for almost everybody. So we don't want, you want planned growth, but this is a great place to live. And I think if you have the right companies and the right leaders in those positions, you can have a lot of success.
Do you think there's a chance that some year down the road that equal revenue sharing will not exist in the NFL?
I hope not. I think, in my mind, that's kind of what has set the league apart from,
Right.
You look at the other leagues where it's the combination of revenue sharing and then the salary cap has been crucial for the league, and it's worked so well. And I don't have to tell you, I mean, you look at the broadcast networks, I mean, 88 of the top 100 shows last year were NFL games. And so it's, And a higher percentage as we go forward, or over the last 10 years, the percentage of our revenue that is national has grown. So I think that really says a lot about the stability of the league. So while we're in really good shape now, things can change pretty quickly. You look at outside of sports and particularly football, people aren't watching TV the way they used to. It's all streaming and
isn't it amazing that there's a great story in the New York Times about how ESPN between 2013 and 2027 will basically decrease in the number of houses that they're in by about 60%.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like you can't count on anything that you thought was a forever thing, so.
No, you're right. But, knock on wood, the league is in very sound financial shape now, and popularity is kind of at an all-time high, and hopefully it can continue. But things are changing, and I think that's where I give Roger and people in the league office a lot of credit. Is they know we're in a good position now, but they're also planning for the future.
Mark Murphy, president of the Packers, thanks a lot for joining me.
It's always a pleasure. It's great to have you here in Green Bay, Peter.
Thank you, Mark. My thanks to Mark Murphy for taking the time, and as always, my thanks to Miles Simmons for making sense of this National Football League, which, as at the start of the 104th season, has its usual head-scratching things that you just can't make sense of.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.